to this video on the aftermath of UFC 305. Obviously, Adesanya losing the main event to Duplessis. Obviously, that's a big loss, really, coming off that long layoff. Breaking down the fight, really, Duplessis did well early. Adesanya was really growing into the fight and doing well and really winning it. And I would think, from looking at that fight, was going to win that fight going forward. If you had to bet on anyone going on to win it, he was winning. I think the first, second round, probably Duplessis, and then going on from that, Adesanya was taking control of that fight, which was, I think Duplessis was tired, and that caused Adesanya to get more shots off and be able to get his shots in on Duplessis. Obviously, Duplessis won by basically hitting him with a punch that I'd fully expect Adesanya to not get hit with. But it got took down, submitted. Obviously, once it got to the ground, that was really it, to be honest with you. Once it got to the ground and he was already hurt, getting submissions in so much easier against, especially a stand-up fighter like Adesanya. I think it's tough for Adesanya going forward. I think he's lost, against Strickland, now against Duplessis. And he'll have to work his way back up, and does he want to? The amount of money he's had, who would he fight? Who's a big enough name for him to even consider it? If I had to put suggestions out there, it would be... It might be Sean Strickland. If he lost, it might be... Chimaev. I think Chimaev's one of the ones where it could be. Whether he actually takes that fight, I would suggest he probably wouldn't. If I was his team, I'd say no to a Chimaev fight. I think there's too many risks around that fight. That guy is so untested at that level. You could beat him out of the park. Unlikely. I think he'll just get you on the ground. I think he's untested to see how good he is, and I think if he manages to get you on the ground, it's night. And do you really want to risk your whole career? Because this next fight will really risk his whole career. In a sense, if he loses it, no matter what, really, where does he go from there? I don't know. I think he goes out of the sport. So, is he going to risk it against an untested fighter against Chimaev, or would he rather wait for Duplessis and Sean Strickland to fight out? If Sean Strickland loses, is he probably going to go for that? I think he will. I think there could even be a Duplessis rematch, but if Chimaev doesn't fight, obviously Chimaev going against Robert Whittaker, there could be a Robert Whittaker fight if he beats Chimaev. I do think Chimaev wins. I do think then it is an Adesanya Chimaev really on a collision course. Or does Adesanya say no to Chimaev and go to Robert Whittaker? Maybe, but I do think then he's going to have to fight someone, either another fight before he gets back to the big time. I think he has, if he wants to get back to the title picture within one fight, has to be a Chimaev win, and then he can get back to the title picture against Duplessis or whoever, Sean Strickland. I think it's difficult. I think, Adesanya is such a big name in that division, wants to come back up, can't be fighting people with no name value. Especially UFC won't be doing that with the amount of wage and stuff he's getting per fight from the UFC. They need him to have big fights and big main events. I just think it's got to be Chimaev. I think you then build a name either for Chimaev or Adesanya, and one of them's going to be going at the... I think if Chimaev loses, I think he just needs more time. I think if Adesanya loses, you destroy a name. So whether UFC actually make that, they're going to have to weigh it up financially, going, how much is his name worth to us now? How many years left is Adesanya probably got at that top level? And that's sort of what I'm going to discuss now, is really how long do I think he's got. 35 years of age. Anderson Silva went to about 38. And, do I think Adesanya beats... Is Anderson Silva? I think there's only one Anderson Silva, to be honest. I think Adesanya used his best years out in kickboxing. Not his best years, I'd say a lot of his early years in kickboxing, where he took damage and things against, Alex Pereira and things. And and that will diminish your UFC career. I don't think he's as big as I think in the middleweights. I think it's Anderson Silva, and then Adesanya is probably up there, top 3. Maybe second in that, but he definitely doesn't touch Anderson Silva. Just purely, Anderson Silva still went at 38 as well. He's at 35 and lost 3 out of his 4 last fights, which is obviously he won the Alex Pereira fight. He's then lost. Out of his 4 fights, he lost against Pereira, won against Pereira, then Sean Strickland, Duplessis. Just seems to me that, okay, I can understand that Alex Pereira lost. You're both kickboxers and he's a brilliant kickboxer, but Sean Strickland, Duplessis, it just seems like you're going down the division. And it just seems like you aren't that guy who just ran through the division like you did before. And how many shots has he taken? And that's also a big thing. He spent many years in kickboxing, many years here. Will he have that longevity like Anderson Silva, who, to be honest, didn't take massive knocks or punches until late on in his career? To be honest, I watched him in the UFC, so I could be wrong there, but truthfully, I think Anderson actually kept up to 38 because he took a lot less hits than everyone else. Adesanya has a very similar style where he tries to hit and not get hit, but overall has been hit in kickboxing with that many fights where you weren't making money, really, this big time money. You have to take a lot of fights, which means you had a lot of fights where you did take hits, whereas, against Alex Pereira, things like that, Alex Pereira knocked you out in kickboxing, knocked you out in the UFC. You had a lot of fights, a lot of training camps, a lot of weight cuts. How many years has he got left? Whereas Anderson Silva, I don't know, but how much back in that time was there weight cutting like there is today and things like that? And the, was there an Alex Pereira in kickboxing? No, there wasn't. So I think it's a tough one where I think it's just a sign of the UFC times where Anderson kept going to around 38 years old. I don't think Adesanya goes at that top level any further than now. I think he has to take a big name. He has to take a big fight. Robert Whittaker, I don't think, will cut it because they fought so many times before. People don't want to see that. They want to see a Chimaev, or if Sean Strickland loses. Against Sean Strickland, I think he could win. Against the Chimaev, I got a really weird feeling that Chimaev's just going to dominate him. I think Chimaev's really odd, where Chimaev will do really bad and get pieced up by Adesanya on the feet, and everyone will go, "Oh right, that's the level." Or he'll just get him to the ground, and it'll be sad to see that Adesanya, who has brought so much to the sport, has been defeated like that late on in his career. I think Adesanya has to take some time off. I think he took a good few punches in that fight against Duplessis. I think he has to rethink. I think it's a problem with his mindset as well, that he's come back after a year. First 2 rounds he gets beaten, basically. Early in the fight gets beaten, starts coming back into it and gets subbed for the first time. I don't like the odds of him coming back at 35 and going, "I'm still the champion, guys," after 2 straight defeats. It's going to be a tough one. I think if anyone could do it, I think Adesanya could. I think he's up there with the best. Definitely a Hall of Famer, but there's some point where you have to look at his history and how many fights he's had and how many weight cuts and things like that, and you go, yes, you may be 3 years younger than when Anderson basically stopped at top level, or whatever, at 38, and you go, look, the overall level of mixed martial arts has went up, so every fight you have in kickboxing or mixed martial arts is at higher level. You do take more hits nowadays, and 3 years isn't that long when every fight is probably more competitive. Especially in the UFC, I think And whether that's skill between Adesanya and Anderson Silva, or whether that's, I think partially time it's part of the times where it's become more popular, more people get into it. That cream of the crop becomes larger in a sense of people who are the best or could consider themselves to go for a title, and also the level is increased of sort of people going, I can do mixed martial art, I can do kickboxing. I think it's just a problem for him going forward. I don't see how at 35 he bounces back from this, which is sad. I think overall Adesanya's done such a great thing for the sport, really brought a name to the sport, and that name needs to be replaced. And this is a problem for the UFC, who at middleweight has that sort of name anymore that Adesanya has. And I think it could be Chimaev, to be honest with you. I think they may have a ready-made guy there. But again, needs time in a sense of he needs to beat these guys to consider himself at the big level. Robert Whittaker needs to beat next fight. And that'll probably be a Sean Strickland or a Duplessis. Or Adesanya needs to beat them as well to get to that level. Which I think, there's lots of problems in there. There's lots of potential to lose in there. They are great level guys. I think he did great against Usman. But yeah, overall, a very tough time for Adesanya at the minute. I think get yourself time off. See how you feel. I'd rather these champions who are at this level with them big names actually retire when they're on top. Or not on top, but when they realise they've lost it. Very hard for them to consider that they aren't at that level anymore, and they go, we've had the best camp ever. Are you as fast? In sparring, it doesn't matter. In sparring, you probably piece up every sparring partner you had, but every sparring partner you've had aren't at that top level. They're all at different gyms. They are never at that top level. Is your coach actually being truthful, going, you are missing a step, you're slightly slower, you are slowing down, and how truthful is your team? Because at this sort of age, you've lost 2 straight, it's time to start considering, look, ask my team, how am I doing? Am I still that man? And I think they need to be truthful. If you're not, and if you are, fair enough, you go forward. But if you're not, you take serious damage. You become a Tony Ferguson. And whether that's his team or whether he's just doing it off his own, I don't quit. It's sad for fans. It's just terrible, and it just ruins your legacy. The fans just go into them fights where they see Tony Ferguson now and go, yeah, I sort of understand what's going to happen, and I'm not happy about it, and it's sort of a grimace on the face from the starting bell. And I don't want that to happen to Adesanya. He's been at such a top level. I think if he loses one more fight, I think he needs to consider now whether he's still got it, whether he's still got the heart for it. But one more fight and that's it, guys. If he doesn't win that, if he goes against Chimaev and Chimaev beats him, that's 3 guys in 3 fights, and it's time to go. I'm not at that top level anymore, and retire and keep the memory from the fans. Really, is that you did amazingly well, and then you retired. So I think that's my point. Is that Adesanya should really needs to go away, consider himself for a good few months, make sure he's happy that he still is at top level, and question his team. Am I still at that level? And if he comes back, I wish him all the best. I think whatever fight comes back to will be a massive fight. I purely consider that Chimaev could do it, or Robert Whittaker, one of them two. I think Chimaev will be the fight to make, really, to get that big name and push him back up that title, or Chimaev to push him back up. But please let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.